Of course, not the first time the vice president has gotten out ahead on a sensitive topic. Joining me now to discuss Biden and his Bidenisms is Washington Bureau Chief of Mother Jones, David Corn. Indeed, it is always a rock and roll time when it comes to the vice president, David. But this week in particular, September 16th, the vice president referred to loan sharks as Shylocks. September 17th, he referred to the former Singaporean Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew as the wisest man in the Orient. And of course, he invoked Senator Bob Packwood at a Democratic women's event later on in the week. These latest gaffes, the ones pertaining to the Middle East, are most serious. How much do you think all of this in sum is an issue for the White House?
Well, you know, I think his wild and craziness has been particularly wilder and crazier the past few weeks, as you just noted. I mean, there's an old Washington saying, Alex, you know this, that a gaffe is when a politician says something that's true, perhaps a little bit inconvenient. And that's what the vice president has said in the past few days about the coalition and our so-called allies in the region. So it's, you know, he might have been able to say it differently. He made it sound as if Turkey had purposely allowed some militants to get there when probably was more a matter of them not being able to police their porous border. And so there was it's a sensitivity question, not a question of knowledge or accuracy.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I've watched Biden for, you know, decades here in Washington. I hate to admit that. And the thing is, you know, he's developed, this reputation, particularly as vice president, as a bit of a goofball. But he really is one of the smartest guys, policy-wise, on the Hill who's worked in the White House. Even when I don't agree with what with some of the ideas he has, they're always well thought out, and he's a creative thinker. But he has this way. There's something about Joe.
There is something about Joe.
That,
but David,
maybe it's just exuberant. He's just an exuberant fellow.
I will say, Biden is also one of the fiercest and most ardent defenders of this White House as well. At that same Harvard event, he chastised or rapped on the proverbial knuckles, quote, certain secretaries who were releasing books, tell-alls. That certain secretary is, of course, none other than Leon Panetta, who had an interview with Andrea Mitchell today, and has not been particularly charitable in terms of the president's decision not to take further action after Assad crossed the red line. I want to play a little bit of sound from Leon Panetta when he was asked by Andrea Mitchell if he thought Vice President Biden would make a good commander-in-chief come 2016.
It's tough for me to kind of say, you know, that Joe Biden couldn't do that job because, frankly, Joe Biden has a lot of experience, particularly as vice president. Hillary Clinton, I know, can do the job.
What? With friends like that, who needs enemies?
Well, I think Barack Obama's probably saying that about Leon Panetta as well today. I mean, here's the guy who served the president, and he's now taking the Mitt Romney line that if you really wanted to cut a deal with Prime Minister Maliki of Iraq, you could have done that, even though Bush couldn't do it, and Maliki was very adamant against giving U.S. military forces immunity there. So it's very easy for Leon Panetta or for Mitt Romney and all the neocons to come out and say, well, the president just should have made Maliki do something he wasn't going to do. Well, you know, maybe, but that strikes me as a bit of a cheap shot. But, you know, in Washington, it's like all for one and one for one.
What do you, yeah, that's true. I mean, he also said, David, in his book, he writes, too often, in my view, the president relies on the logic of a law professor rather than the passion of a leader. Again, something that Mitt Romney could have said. That combined with the sort of the distinction between Joe Biden in 2016 and Hillary Clinton in 2016, who he knows could do the job, makes you just think that either Leon Panetta is gunning for a spot on a Republican ticket or a Clinton ticket.
I mean, I don't think blind loyalty serves the public discourse too well, but there is something unseemly about a guy who was given two very good positions by this president coming out later and taking sort of cheap shots from the side.
David Corn from Mother Jones, chronicler of Joe Biden through the years. We won't say how many. It's always good to see you.
Thank you.